Hello, everyone. This week we are exploring personality, psychopathy, and what psychology often calls the dark side of human nature. One of the most important ideas in this discussion is this: evil does not always come from people who are mentally ill, obviously broken, or visibly dangerous. In fact, much serious harm often comes from ordinary personality traits that become extreme and are sometimes even rewarded by the environment. This is where we encounter what psychologists call the Dark Triad. The Dark Triad includes three overlapping personality traits. First, narcissism. Second, Machiavellianism. Third, psychopathy. These are not official DSM-5-TR diagnoses. They are personality traits that exist on a continuum, meaning many people may show some of these traits without meeting criteria for a personality disorder. Let's begin with narcissism. Narcissism involves an inflated sense of self-importance, a strong need for admiration, a sense of entitlement, and difficulty tolerating criticism. The DSM-5-TR diagnosis most closely associated with this trait is narcissistic personality disorder. Classic examples often discussed include highly grandiose leaders, certain celebrity figures, and individuals whose identities depend heavily on admiration and control. Not every confident or ambitious person is narcissistic, but when self-worth depends entirely on superiority, relationships often become exploitative. Research suggests that strong narcissistic traits appear in perhaps 1 to 6% of the population at clinically significant levels, while milder narcissistic features are much more common. Treatment is difficult because many narcissistic individuals do not seek therapy unless relationships collapse, work problems emerge, or depression follows ego injury. Evidence-based approaches such as cognitive behavioral therapy, schema therapy, and psychodynamic work can help improve insight, emotional regulation, and interpersonal functioning. Progress is often slow because defensiveness and lack of genuine self-reflection create major barriers. Next is Machiavellianism. Machiavellianism refers to a strategic, calculating personality style focused on manipulation, control, and long-term personal advantage. These individuals are often patient rather than impulsive. They can appear socially skilled, charming, and highly effective in competitive systems. Think of the person who quietly manipulates relationships, controls information, and plays people against one another for personal gain. There is no direct DSM-5-TR diagnosis for Machiavellianism, but it often overlaps with features of narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, and sometimes paranoid personality traits. Its prevalence is difficult to estimate because it is a trait rather than a diagnosis, but moderate levels are surprisingly common in competitive workplaces, politics, and high-conflict relational systems. Treatment is challenging because the person often sees manipulation as strength rather than dysfunction. Motivational interviewing, CBT, and long-term relational therapy may help, but only if the individual sees personal cost in their behavior. Without motivation for change, therapy tends to have limited success. Finally, psychopathy. Psychopathy involves emotional coldness, lack of empathy, shallow affect, impulsivity, and fearlessness. This is the darkest and most clinically concerning of the three. The closest DSM-5-TR diagnosis is antisocial personality disorder, although psychopathy is not identical to ASPD. Many individuals with ASPD are not true psychopaths, and psychopathy places stronger emphasis on emotional detachment and callousness. Examples include chronic exploiters, predatory offenders, and individuals who repeatedly harm others without remorse. At the extreme, forensic psychology often studies psychopathy in violent offenders, serial predators, and highly manipulative criminals. Psychopathic traits occur on a continuum, but severe psychopathy is relatively rare, often estimated around 1% of the general population, though rates are much higher in correctional settings. Subclinical psychopathy is especially concerning because it combines low empathy, low anxiety, and poor impulse control. These individuals may understand right and wrong intellectually, but they do not feel the emotional weight of harming others. This absence of internal restraint is why psychopathy is so strongly linked to violence and exploitation. Treatment outcomes are mixed and often disappointing. Traditional empathy-based therapy often fails. Some research suggests that highly psychopathic individuals may simply learn how to manipulate others more effectively if treatment is poorly structured. Behavioral approaches, strong external accountability, contingency management, and structured CBT can sometimes reduce harmful behavior, but genuine personality change is often limited. What connects all three traits is what researchers call a callous core, a low level of empathy and concern for others. One of the most unsettling findings in this chapter is that this shared foundation is not rare or exotic. Often it is simply low agreeableness, being less cooperative, less compassionate, and more willing to use people as tools rather than treat them as persons. That means malevolence does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks confident, sometimes it looks charming, sometimes it looks strategic, successful, and even socially admired, especially in environments where callousness is rewarded. The major lesson from this week is this: evil often emerges from ordinary personality differences, interacting with power, opportunity, and weak accountability. You do not always need a monster. Sometimes you only need a system that rewards callousness and ignores harm. Please consider the following questions. Which traits are merely difficult and which are truly dangerous? When does ambition become exploitation? How do institutions unintentionally protect dark personalities? And perhaps the hardest question, how often do we reward the very traits we claim to fear? That is where this chapter becomes most powerful and perhaps most uncomfortable, because it forces us to ask not only who evil people are, but what kinds of systems allow them to thrive. I hope you found this topic interesting. Have a great day.